Hey, friends.
Hey.
There they go. There they go. I'm gonna go ahead and wave at you anyway.
I don't call them, but no, y'all cute. You cute.
I'm talking about the screen.
You know what? I'll be bougie all day. You
come on.
Out here in these, I was 5 minutes from putting this scarf on my head and looking like Erica Badu yesterday. Don't think.
I love it.
It's about to be the last 3 films of Star Wars.
What you sipping
Come
on
on,
over there?
she done laid the edges. Yes.
Yeah, she done laid my edges.
Look, I'm halfway jealous because I didn't get my glass. And see, I was going to go and be eating on crab legs. But Tim said I couldn't have no crab legs while we was on the live.
Get your crab legs. Let's go.
I'm drinking cranberry juice.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
Go get your crab legs. Go
I
get
know,
your crab legs.
now I want some wine. I want some wine. Go ahead, talk to the people while you, before somebody come on.
So, what's going on, everybody? Ain't nobody on us but us, but we're gonna do it anyway. I know. See that? You see that? But what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Reviews in Black. I'm Tim. Dama's over there making her some wine and crab legs, and I hope she bring enough for everybody. Today, I got my 2 favorite cousins, and I said it. Jeremy and Shay Treadwell. What's up? What's up? What's up? So they recommended a movie called Parasite. Parasite. Y'all want to tell us a little bit about Parasite?
Sure.
Yeah.
So Parasite's a very interesting film, won a lot of awards back in 2019, that really talks about the socioeconomic divide between the rich and the poor and what it looks like to climb up. But the director, what's his name? Bong Joon-ho?
Yeah.
Bong Joon-ho?
I think so. I think I said it relatively right. He does this really cool thing where he plays with comedy and suspense all at the same time to tell the story. So I thought it was phenomenal, and it ended up being a really, really good film. Really, really good.
It was really good. Like, I was watching the movie, and at first I'm like, nobody told me this was going to be a movie that had subtitles, you know. And I'm like, because he came on, he had the whole Universal thing going, everything had. I'm like, okay, this is about to be good. Yeah. And I'm like, so they're gonna speak in Spanish and all that. And then, no, but not Spanish, Chinese. And then all of a sudden they dropped some English words in there.
Yeah.
Korean. I'm sorry, Korean. Oh my God. Okay. Say that. I thought they were Chinese.
Oh, don't say that. They're not the same.
They're not the same. Don't try to set me up to say they're the same.
We are the old people that watch everything in subtitles, so we catch ourselves.
But we do too.
We love everything in subtitles. Yeah.
But I thought it was funny because I was like, am I reading these so good that I'm hearing English? And I realized a couple of times they were dropping English words in there.
Yep.
So, but at first I was turned off from it because I was in my lazy mode. I didn't want to do reading all the subtitles, and then all of a sudden it just started hitting. I was like, yeah, this is a good movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I loved it. And what I didn't realize until I kind of did some search on it is that I don't know if you guys have seen Train to Busan before.
We haven't seen it.
It's an amazing zombie film, right? Amazing. And I didn't realize that half the people that are in this movie were also in that particular movie. I'm not too sure if it's the same director, but Train to Busan is one of those movies where I believe it only exclusively got released to Netflix, but if it hadn't went to theaters, it would have won awards as well. Like, that's how good it was. But the same kind of cast was in this particular film, so it makes sense kind of thinking of bridging the foreign films, those two together, just kind of the dynamics and how it was played. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was from the same director. But they both had that kind of the comedic suspense kind of drama thing that underlined and kind of took you on that journey. It was good. Yeah, it was very, very good.
As we were doing some reading, Bong is actually a huge fan of Jordan Peele. So the fact they both come from a horror background and then wanted to do something a little bit more surreptitious, like this, the sense of looking at climate change, looking at race relations, looking at socioeconomic issues, and really making that kind of the villain throughout their films. I think that's why this Parasite and Us are kind of similar in that same way.
That's dope. And it's kind of getting into the story of the plot, right? So let's kind of talk about the story. Initially, I was watching the whole film, and I found myself getting to the end and kind of being like, well, why is this called Parasite? Like, I don't really understand. Where did the term parasite come from? But just in the mentioning of that, Jeremy, with the whole socioeconomic dynamic, it made sense when you think about how, one person got in there, the brother got in there first, and all of a sudden they see this opportunity to capitalize on the situation. And then now you have this thing of greed, and then pushing forward how, poor little mother that got fired went down in the bottom, and her husband. I mean, just the whole unveiling of it. And side note, if you're watching this, right, we're gonna
be some
talk
spoilers.
Spoilers. We need to. It's
First
necessary.
of all, I'm gonna jump all the way to the middle. Why she back kicker and serve at the same time down the stairs?
It was seamless.
It was so it was like she was turning around. She took something out the refrigerator, turned around, and shut the door with a foot. That's what it was like.
But I think in the movie they highlight how she was an athlete.
Yep, she's a track star.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
right.
To do that was actually kind of cool. I want to go back to what Dominique was talking about with the whole title being Parasite. Understanding that parasites live off of organisms, like they exploit the fact that this organism is there, and I'm going to suck it till it's dry. And when you start looking at scientifically, like tapeworms, things of that nature, they suck their host until the host can't live anymore.
Right.
And
or until they explode.
Yeah, or explode, which is like the Blitzen Gar. But I think that it was actually fascinating that the film was called Parasite, because if you really examined it, you had to ask yourself the question, who was the parasite?
Right. Come on, You did. Because was it the poor family who all of a sudden saw all these different ways to wing each one of their families in to be able to pull off of the funds and take advantage of the socioeconomic status of this rich family? Was it the rich family and how they were apparently using this poor family, not necessarily paying them enough, but asking for so much and demanding so much? Was it, the kid who was milking the fact that he's this eccentric kid, who is taking advantage of his parents and do whatever he wanted to do? Was it the daughter who's taking advantage of the situation that she has this private tutor? Was it the nanny, the initial nanny, whose husband was living downstairs, and she's just doing everything that she can do to keep him alive while still, and it's so interesting. I don't think, if I were to put a dynamic to it, I don't think that she was a parasite. I wouldn't call the nanny a parasite, because when she became exposed, right, and they were talking about what happened, or they were accusing her, like, oh, so what were you doing? Were you like stealing from them? And she said, no, I was using my own salary to pay for his food and bringing everything down to him. And then the way the dynamic of the husband, how he said, no, I stay in his home, and so I give respect to the husband. How every time he came in, he would bring the lights up as he came along. And so I would almost argue that the original maid and the husband, their relationship was more symbiotic. It was like, oh, you take care of me, I'm going to take care of you. It may seem like it's a bit like a bit parasitic, because they were there and they were sneaky, but he had so much respect for the husband that I don't think he wanted to ruin that. They had a system, like their system was working. The only thing
but that's how parasites work.
That's true. But in your definition of I'm going to suck the parasite, or a parasite feeds on someone until they die, until they explode, if the other family would have never came in, would that relationship exploded in any way?
I think it's still parasitic because it exploited the fact that when the house was sold to the second family, they just told them about that area. So they took advantage of the fact that there was a space in this person's home that they didn't know about.
And you have to remember, she, on her salary, could not afford a place for them to live. They explained that they were in so much debt.
Yeah.
And that the police were still looking for him. So it's not just like, oh, we're going to live secretly in this bunker and I'll take care of him on my own salary. No. She could not have afforded to live anywhere else. He would have either been in jail or have been executed by the government. So it was a whole nother reason why they had to keep that from the Park family.
But would the relationship have totally exploded the family if the other family would have never came?
I see your point, and I would say no. I don't think it would have gone that far if the other family would have emerged. But and I know this is transitioning us to another space, but
that's all right.
I thought it was
Look at the word
interesting. You look at the socioeconomic issues in this film, and you looked at these are two poor families. However, the second family, what was her last name?
The Parks.
The Park.
No.
No,
Yeah. I don't know.
whatever. The family that blew up everything.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that as the director showed how there's this downhill thing throughout the whole movie where like the rich people live on the hill, the rain,
In the sunlight.
and in the sunlight. I love that part. And the rain would go down to like this place and they were living in a basement. However, their basement still had light. You know what I mean? Like they were halfway in the basement.
Yeah.
And they emerges this family that's living underneath these rich people in the basement, and they have no light at all. Like they have no freedom. And instead of them joining forces together to figure out how to get on top of the hill, they fought each other. And it's like, how often does that happen in our communities where you have people who are less fortunate and poor fighting each other instead of coming together to figure out how to get on the hill?
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
The crazy thing to me is they went all this time trying to be parasites and feed off this family until you get to the end when he did what he should have did at the beginning and got an education and I guess he got a great job to buy that house.
Well, no, he didn't. That was a plan. They showed a fantasy of what the plan was to be. But then at the end, he went back to the letter he was going to try to get to his dad. So it didn't happen quite yet, but that's where he was going.
Yeah, the film, I know, the film ended horribly.
Yeah.
I didn't like the
There was no resolution whatsoever.
No. It was a plan.
I think that there's something poetic about that.
Yeah, but it looked like he was looking at the house to buy it.
Well, no, that was the fantasy.
It was like foreshadowing.
That was a dream.
Oh, it was a foreshadow. Okay.
Yeah, and like I think that was the sad part. And I know there was a couple of reviews that talked about how this film parallels Joker because it talks about how these characters they laugh uncontrollably in very
it did. Yeah.
situations, and which is so tragic. But anyway, it's kind of sad because to think about it, he wanted them to be able to walk up the stairs. Like that hit me so hard when he said, and his dad can just walk up the stairs. And when you start to look at the wealth divide, and especially in America and other countries, everyone's fighting just so that their family can walk up the stairs. But how much does it take to even be able to walk up the stairs? You know?
Yeah.
Right.
That's a little bit harder than, people think it is. And that was the sad part. Like, there was no resolution at all.
No.
But what was really fascinating to me is the notion of talent and the notion of success in relation to the talent, right?
Yeah.
Each one of these family members, given in their home, they were relaxed, they were comfortable, you know what I mean, just chilling. But the moment that they had an opportunity, the little girl was such a great designer. She could forge all sorts of documents. Little boy could teach English. He knew English, right? But none of these people were inspired by their own talent to actually be successful in the world because they were too busy literally being pissed on by people on the street.
Literally.
Literally.
But the minute that they got in the presence of someone with a little bit of respect, with a little bit of positioning in society, that's when they straightened up. They did their hair. Listen, I didn't even recognize the mother when she showed up for that job.
I didn't either.
I said, who did?
I didn't either. I was thinking like she was an auntie. I'm like, where'd she come from?
So
I always thought it was the one missing the whole time.
Exactly. But I think that was fascinating. I think too often in our own societies, we have children and young adults and next generations that don't recognize their own talent and their own ability to do something. And then unfortunately, too often not, they end up having to feel like they have to swindle someone or manipulate or hustle.
Be a parasite. Like they think that is the way out. I'm going to swindle someone out of getting what they got instead of working to get there. But the way that the world is made, like to even have the ability to have the opportunity to work for it seems almost impossible. It's like this unusual PTSD of being pissed on. Like it's
Now, even speaking to that, and this may be transitioning a little bit more into a different space. So we're talking about how the poor sometimes, or the lower class, typically feel like they have to swindle, right? You're talking about how the upper class, or now let's try to transition to the upper class. So the upper class had these people that were working for them, right? And all of a sudden, they were in need of this tutor. They bring the tutor in. Now, when things start to happen, how is it, or how do you all feel about how easy it was for them to trust someone who just came in, right? You don't know where they came from. All of a sudden, they're painting these pedigrees that seem to be well, but these are people that just came in. That essentially, no matter what their pedigree is, they still may not be seen as equals. So now, all of a sudden, they're depending on them to bring other people in. And then there's that moment that happens where there's, where I like to kind of call it the Great Divide, right? Where they were in the home. The family leaves, and the parasitic family is all in the home, and the family all of a sudden comes back from camping, and they're all stuck up underneath this table. And then the conversation happens that strikes the chord with the dad, who I think at that point had a sudden realization of no matter what we do, they still see us as lower, right? How do we get over that hump or that divide of, yes, I've swindled my way in here, but now it's a matter of pride. Like, no matter what I do, I'm still the lower person. Like, how do you think that dynamic worked when the conversation for them in their minds or their eyes shifted from I'm swindling to, oh no, I'm still being looked at less than?
And
I think that was actually a really, really interesting shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go back to, we keep saying it, literally getting pissed on. I think that was symbolic in so many ways, because it was smelly. And I was telling Jeremy that something that really stood out to me is that in the very beginning of the film, there were stinker bugs, and they were exterminating the stinker bugs.
Yes.
Because it was, and like if they die, they smell, And it was this constant theme of the fact that it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're in this area, that filth is going to stay on you.
Yeah.
Smell that way, and there's nothing you can do to get rid of the fact that you are who you are.
And I think even with all of that going on, I think the tide to turn was when he followed his pride and he went after the guy, the father. I can't think his name, but the rich guy.
Yeah,
right.
The father.
Right.
I think it's Dong
Lee.
Okay. Speaking of the follow, this is a sidebar, and I know I'm sidebarring. That man went by the name Kevin.
He did.
But his name was Dong Inc. or something like that.
What was his name? I don't know. I can't see his name.
He had a Korean name, but in the film, he said, "You can call me Kevin."
Yeah.
That stood out to me, that even the rich had to change themselves to sound like they were something else, so they have that pride.
Speaking of the notion of quality, and the rich family kept referencing items that they purchased from the U.S.
Yeah.
Right, with the tent. Yeah, like the tent. Oh, it's
There's a couple things that she said, I get it from the U.S., so it's good. It's not going to collapse. It's fine.
And that's funny because we think the opposite.
Yep.
You know,
I got it from overseas.
Got it from overseas foreign. You know?
Right. Exactly. So I think there are so many different social cues and cues of intelligence and wealth that people do. So you're telling me about someone that you knew in school.
Yeah, someone I knew in school, grew up with, and I would never forget in elementary school, her name was one name one day, and then 2 years later, she had a different American name. And people called her that. And, you know, the question was, why would you change your name? And it was like, oh, it just fits better over here. You know, it gave me more status, you know. And I thought that was interesting. And, you know, just thinking about the smell thing and the aroma, it's almost like, and I hate to go here, but it's almost like being a minority in America. You can't wash it off. Like, it's almost like that smell. It's never going to go away. It's going to be there. And you're constantly trying to make people view you as like, I'm your equal. I am here. I work every day. I do the same exact stuff as you. But at the end of the day, you can't wash that off.
Yeah.
You can't get
now, Let me play devil's advocate here, right? So remember there was a scene when the little boy
He's telling me everything I think about.
when the wife first started to come into the home, when the little boy ran upstairs and smelled the dad and smelled the mom and said, "Ooh, they smell the same." And then fast forward, they go back home and they start to address the issue of smelling the same. And so they started to come up with all these different ways to combat the smell. And one of the things they said is what? So we need to do 4 different things in laundry. Wife said, "Oh no, that's too much work. Like, who's going to do that?" So now let's get into the issue of, yes, we can't wash who we are off, but in the light of change, how many people think that it's too much work to just try to be better?
Why don't you preach a little bit?
And then I think that was such a real moment that they got so complacent with the fact that they had found this space of comfort, that they had all got their way in there and that they were all working it. You know, dad in there squeezing the butt of the mama while she walked through. You know, they in there, they got rid of the lady so the girl can have her peaches. And now they all of a sudden come against an opposition. But they're too lazy to do whatever it takes to be able to keep moving forward. And I think that is a narrative that...
I'm going to piggyback off of what you're saying, on top of the fact that they were too lazy.
Yeah.
They sat down at that table when that family was on that camping trip and started pretending like what that family had was theirs.
Yes.
So all of a sudden you feel like you have some type of entitlement or
I'll say,
something that ain't even yours. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'll also say this. Even though they were in this new luxurious home with all the alcohol they can drink, all the food that they can eat, they still ate like slobs.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
They still ate like slobs.
So
they still behaved. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
You know, and then I thought it was symbolic that they started sweeping everything up under the rug.
I didn't even that's a good one.
I was like, they started sweeping everything, and one of them cut themselves on it too.
Right.
I mean, I was like, this is crazy. I mean, you can do all that work to get in that position. The mother's working as a maid, but turn around and saying doing all that laundry is too much work.
Yeah.
But you're doing it for somebody else.
But look at how they look like little bums at their house. Like, you couldn't even recognize them when they
I was trying to figure out where they got these clean clothes from.
Clean clothes, hair, everything.
Right.
I was like, look at them.
But yet again, willing to put in that work, how they can write whole scripts about what to tell the dad when the dad says this, and what to tell the mom when the mom says this, when it's time to get mother in there. They can work so much to swindle, but they can't work to improve themselves to the capacity to acquire what they're already trying to take advantage of.
Even insofar as the main character, the guy, his friend Min, who told him, when I return, when she goes off to college, I'm going to ask her out. Not probably a month later is he saying the exact same thing. And he's, you know, in effect, trying to seduce. He's reading her journal, her diary, so he can get inside her head and get closer to her, so that she can be his. And so then they can be, you know, son-in-law and and none of that was realistic. None of that was really allowed to happen just by the social structures, right, and the caste system that they have. But the fact of the matter is, he was willing to even betray his best friend in that way.
Right.
But that's when I started questioning, is this film really talking about socioeconomic issues? I could not identify the protagonist and the antagonist of the film at all, because I thought everybody was wrong in some shape, form, or fashion. When we, was the fact that this one family was wealthy, was that the core of this film, or was it talking about people and how, I mean, because you can have two people that can be the same, and if somebody wants what you got and be trying to steal it, they ain't willing to work for it. It's not going to work anyhow. So you know what I mean? Like,
that's good. That's a good point.
It's funny, and I was also thinking about the I keep wanting to say the father, but it's not the father. The husband of the rich guy. The rich guy. We're gonna say the rich guy.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious when he asked him about if he loved his wife.
Yeah.
So, you can call it that.
You know, you can call it that. You know, which alludes to a whole nother situation they got going on, and then she was hiding stuff from him, saying he'll kill me if he found out that I brought TB into the house and all this other stuff. She can't cook. She can't do nothing.
And she was so willing to give away like their personal information to get that help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
title to the house.
I mean, no background checks, obviously, but even talking about like how circles work.
Yeah.
And you know, like if I seem to you to be a trustworthy source because I have a certain socioeconomic status or certain, and not even socioeconomic, it's like appearance periods, because people now have social wealth and they think social wealth is so important. And it's like if I have so many followers or I have so many things going on, if I say something that is true.
Right.
Yeah.
What is going on here? You know nothing about these people at all.
Right.
And you just listening. You got your babies around them.
But you have to think about the fact that the wealthy is propped up by whom? Right? The working class. And so they actually did need these people to perform these services because they literally could not do it themselves. To the point, or should I say to that end, there's a guy in the basement pressing the button with his forehead, turning on lights as he walk up the stairs. And the family just assumed
doesn't even know that's supposed to happen. Right.
So, like,
I'm always trying to figure out, but how did he know he was coming upstairs? Was it a sound?
Yeah,
the sound.
Okay.
Because when he kept telling him, he's like, he was singing a little song, and then he told the other guy, shh, shh. And as he heard the steps, that's when he started beating this.
Yeah, because the father walked heavy. Kevin walked heavier in the house than anyone else, and therefore that's what he do when the father. I mean, he probably knew his schedule and stuff, but yeah, I think that in and of itself is the fact that, you know, wealthier families are dependent on these services because they don't have the time, the bandwidth, or sometimes the capability to do it themselves, and so that makes it challenging, I think.
So I do want to ask a question to you guys. The son in the film, the little boy that was just bad, I'm calling it what it is.
Kiwoo? The song.
The song, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
His character was very interesting to me because he had seen a ghost.
That I died laughing.
I was scared with him. I understand.
Hey, it was creepy when he peeked up them stairs, like
eyes though.
Oh, it's so creepy.
When he fell out again the second time, that poor little boy.
That was so creepy. Lord have mercy.
Like, with the kid knew Morse code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with him, and I think he is the kind of like the oddball and everything that just kind of made everything make sense. He was like the free spirit, so structured. Everyone else seemed to be, you know, kind of on this tangent. You got the sister who was like, oh, he gets on my nerves because he acts like he lives in this fantasy world. But I think in the essence, he was really just a kid. While everybody else was in this space trying to be, you know, trying to be perfect or trying to be rebellious, him on in and in, I think he just plays the role that a lot of kids play, where they see everything, they understand everything. They may not understand what everything means, but they can spot the differences. Again, going back to where he smelled the dad, and then went and smelled the mom. It was like they smell the same, right? I don't know what that means, but that must mean that they're related somehow, right? And the fact that he called out the instance, but no one else really saw it to be anything of character. Or same thing when he was sitting in the tent and the guy was doing the Morse code and help me, right? And he knew, but again, what is he supposed to do with that information? And so I think that brought a lot of context to, if you were to parallel it to just kids in general, like youth, we're always so busy trying to mold them into one thing or another, but sometimes we don't really understand what it is that they see. And I think that if the parents would have stopped for a second and really tried to understand what he saw, I think that they would have understood and discovered a lot more of what was happening around him in that sense. So he was kind of like the little spyglass that kind of was the telltale signs of everything that was going on with everything. But again, no one paid attention because he was just a wild kid.
Well, I think that's just another issue that it brings up. What happens with people of higher class? They ignore their children. They ignore. They're constantly. One is always
somebody else to take care of them.
Hire somebody else to take care of them. One is always on outside working, doing all this other stuff. The wife is either she's working or she's at home trying to make sure the ship is working, but have no connection with the child, and she's leaving it up to the nanny. You know, so they act out or they see everything, but they don't realize that he's going through any type of issues because they're so entitled or caught up in their own world.
What was so funny is the little boy was drawing the man the whole time.
The whole time.
His whole art therapy, like the little boy was telling people, somebody the whole time. Your time. And people like, oh, something's wrong with him. Or there's a folklore that says if there's a ghost in your house, that's good luck.
Right.
like, what are you doing? The little boy
Right.
said, a spirit is in your home. If you ain't slinging the oil, you ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
It's terrible.
Bless it. So I would love to kind of fast forward to the moment where everything really started to kind of fall apart. So at the very, very end, where you got, mother that got kicked down the stairs, she heads bashed in, dad that went down there, tied everybody up, and he's
Poorly, might
Poorly.
Yeah, poorly, right. And he's taking the handle off, locked them downstairs. But now, all of a sudden, as they're escaping out, now there's this party. No. You know what? I want to go back to something even more. Let's talk about when they came back and it was raining and their house was flooded, and what that moment may have meant to them. Because at the first moment, the mom doesn't know, right? She's still at the house because that's where she lives. But then they go home, and the sister, the brother, and dad all of a sudden walk into this neighborhood, and it's flood everywhere. And their basement apartment is now flooded, and them going in and retrieving their items, right? So the sister goes to the bathroom and she gets her cigarettes that was hidden up in the ceiling. You have the dad who goes, he's trying to grab his pictures or something like that.
Like medals and something like that.
Right, and he grabs a medal, and then you have the son who goes and grabs this rock, this symbolic rock that he's given in the middle that started this whole entire thing. The metaphorical, right? It's this rock is supposed to bring wealth to the house, and it's metaphorical, and that was kind of the string that kind of again was woven throughout the whole entire piece. What do you think that moment?
And it's the one he was almost killed by too.
Yeah, what moment? What do you think that particular moment with them going home and grabbing those things? What did you see as far as maybe symbolisms, as far as any?
So that whole scene was so symbolic to me.
Yeah.
Watching them run down the hill and the stairs in the rain really, really hit me, because it's like, they had a glimpse of what it looked like being on top.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was right after their glimpse, you know what I mean?
Right.
Had to run downstairs, no shoes, in the rain. And when they got to their home and it was flooded,
they left the window open.
It was like everything was just, they had nothing. They were no better than the people who were living in the basement of them people's house.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you got to think about it. They was just a little bit higher than them folks.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Initially.
And then suddenly they were like, wait a second, we all the same. Like,
yeah.
But they got so caught up in trying to serve and act as though they had achieved what those other, Park family had achieved, that they neglected their own well-being and their own responsibilities. Left the window open. They weren't cognizant of what was going on, and ultimately they.
And then in the beginning, the whole time we kept saying, "Close the window."
So I say that. Like, no. So wouldn't that be the same thing that they did with the little boy? Got so caught up in work and doing their own thing that they ignored him.
I agree.
Yeah.
The families were parallel.
Right.
Yeah.
They had 2 kids. It was parallel the whole time.
Because all this was being foreshadowed.
Yeah.
All of it. The whole smell thing with the little kid. They've been talking about that window since the first scene of the movie.
Sure were.
And it
even
all came.
When they took the bucket and they were throwing the water on the guy outside.
Yeah.
You could see it coming, but I think the thing that hit me the most out of everything, Dominique, was the rock. Mm-hmm. And when he was in the shelter and his father said, "Why are you holding on to that rock so tight?" Mm-hmm. And the boy said he felt like the rock was holding on to him. Mm-hmm. Like there's a burden that he had, and it looked like he was holding it, but it wouldn't let him go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really, really symbolic, that like that was all their problems. Like I think that's why he tried to go give it back, because he didn't want that burden anymore.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But I also think that rain was also representative of the perspective of how one thing has a domino effect on one family and is nothing to the other. So for the Park family, on camping, the rain, interrupted their thing. They just drove home and watched this beautiful rainstorm from the window. And I think we've all had that privilege where the rainstorm outside, we get a bottle of wine, climb in bed or whatever. We can enjoy that.
Right.
But we think about those who are homeless, who are out there suffering in the midst of that rainstorm. Mm. And so I think that was also a beautiful juxtaposition. They have this huge, massive window. They're enjoying the rainstorm. Like, this is peaceful in the Park family. But the other family who's on their way home, when they finally get home, they have nothing left.
But the rain is also a funnel effect because a little bit of rain at the top is not as significant as a bunch of rain rolling down. And I think that also is symbolic of all of the burdens and oppression that they have that woe from that hill.
Exactly.
That we could never understand that.
No.
They couldn't understand it.
And then the next day, it's a beautiful day, let's have a party.
But I think that whole rain going down the hill was symbolic to what they did as well. You know, like you said a little bit of rain don't seem like nothing on top of the hill, but once it get bottom, you know, it caused destruction. Same thing what they were doing. The little bit of wrong that they were doing on top of the hill ended up affecting their house.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it ended up causing one death. And
if they were home, they would have never experienced that.
Nope, never experienced that.
And I also think that rain and how it was so cataclysmic to them, kind of going again from the smallest of things to the bottom of things, was really symbolic to what was to happen next, which is where I'm pushing, transition, bam. So going into the end, right? Because right after that moment, again, just like Jeremy said, that was like all of a sudden, oh, it's a nice day. We need you here for a party. I got to run around town. I need you to come and I need you to set up all this stuff in the yard. I need, invite such and such, an English teacher. And then what about the little, the other teacher? So now all of a sudden, after all of this calamity, after all of this shift, you go from all the way to high the mountain, experiencing the highest moment to experiencing your lowest moment. Now all of a sudden there is this pull on them. There's the feet of the pride where the dad, this whole smell thing. So all of this happened at one time. Now all of a sudden they have to come back and serve. And I think that's really where the boo-boo hit the fan, for a lack of better word. So let's get into that moment. One of the moments.
There is a better word.
Yeah, one of the moments to me that was so interesting is going back to that rock, where the son took that rock and for whatever reason he felt like he was getting ready to take it downstairs. Now, my theory was how in the beginning of the movie, when that person came to come and pee on the yard the second time, and he was like, I'm tired of this. And the first thing, he said, I'm getting ready to go teach him a lesson or something like that. And the first thing he grabbed was that rock as if to hurt him. And his dad told him, no, don't grab the rock, just take this. And so all of a sudden they went and had the little water fight and the little sister, got a little slow-mo, the little funny stuff. So now moving forward, now we're at this climactic moment and he still has this rock. And I think that for me, that rock at that moment was throughout the entire movie, everything was metaphorical, right? Them and how they played this family and who they were, that was metaphorical. Them and how they were living this life, that was metaphorical. And now all of a sudden we're at this moment where I feel like he's sick of metaphors, right? He's tired of it. They've had this moment where he's talking about going to talk to this girl and the family have made it very plain, like, how was that supposed to work? And then we've had this moment where you've been on the top of the mountain to now everything they have is gone. What now? I think he's like, I'm sick of it. Let me go take this rock and I'm going to find something to do with this rock that's going to enact not only how I feel, but to eliminate what I think is a metaphor of my life at this moment. But then he goes downstairs and he drops it. From there, what do you guys think about the things that unfolded moving forward?
Oh, I know what happened immediately after that.
Okay, hold on. Okay, before you go into that, I think it's interesting he dropped it.
Yeah.
We just sat down talking about how he said it was holding on to him.
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly when he decided, I'm not doing this anymore, I want to be with this girl, I'm going to get into the university, all of a sudden dropping the rock, let go. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy.
But before that moment, there was a conversation about belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked the little girl that wouldn't know anything if he belonged there.
Right. Do you see me? Do I fit in with? Yes.
I think that was extremely metaphorical because if she believed and she told him that he belonged there, then that justified his next behavior. And that justified him being able to release that rock.
That's good, yeah.
To the other family who was, in that sense, beneath him.
Yeah, he wanted them to take his burden.
Right. And that's what all these families do to one another. They're passing the burden back and forth.
But I think the scene was also very, very interesting in the fact that the object that he was going to use for violence, somebody used it against him.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? Like, I thought he was dead. I ain't gonna lie.
I thought he was too. I was so shocked at the end when they showed him in the hospital bed. I thought he was done.
Right. But I mean, if we can keep going from that scene, the crazy guy that was in the basement the whole time.
Bless his heart. Bless his heart.
The ghost.
Little tink tink.
Let's
Just
talk
tink
about the
tink.
ghost. When Ghost comes upstairs and sees the light,
Man.
he's almost deranged by it.
Yes,
He
yes.
didn't know what to do with that. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
no one paid him any attention.
Nope.
You know what I mean?
But his wife.
He got something. Didn't he put something in his mouth? He grabbed it.
He did. He went and he took that plum nectar is what they called it. But that was the first thing he sipped, and then he threw it to the side. Then went and picked up the rock and then threw it on the poor boy's head again. He was sick of it. He was done.
I mean, he just came up and he lost it.
Yeah.
It was just he had nothing left.
Well, I think he lost it because I think she died down there.
She did.
Yeah, and I think that was his breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was tied up and he was watching her die, and she kept saying, "I'm dizzy. I think I have a concussion."
And they kept saying that girl, the wife's name.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's when he started losing because he started yelling for her, but he was bound.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that was actually his breaking point. We just didn't see it until the door was open.
Right, and really,
that's so metaphorical right there too.
Yeah,
because
that was his loss to the connection to the real world.
Yeah.
That's all he had.
Because you're looking at the husband of a family.
Yeah,
who can't even help his wife. Like he can't lead his wife. He can't help his wife. He can't support his wife. Nothing. His wife has been doing everything for him, and she died down there.
Right. For the last 4 years. That hadn't been out in the last 4 years.
Yeah, that was so metaphorical that when you're that low on this wealth scale, you're invisible. You can't do
mm-hmm. You're absolutely.
And that proved, and even in the moment of his almost final moments, he was trying to show the father, the park guy, respect. And the guy was like, "You stink. You are
right."
Man, that was dirty. Terrible.
He was deranged and yelling. But for him to have a psychotic break, right, and just do everything he did, what that mattered to him was to let the father of the house know how much he respected him. And he's been leeching off this man for the last 4 years, and the father had no idea he was there. It was invisible to him.
But how many leeches do you know that say that they respect you? Like,
good night. Get out.
I'm done.
That's why I said it's hard to believe. And I get the definition of parasite. I get it, but it's hard to believe that in his case he didn't even really see himself as a parasite. He saw himself as like, how they say the rhinos, you got the big old rhinos and you have the birds that come down and they're really feeding off the rhinos, but they're really helping the rhinos. That's how he saw himself. He saw himself as this little pest, but was still being helpful, right? And was still willing to give respect.
I think they all did.
No, I disagree. I don't think that.
I think the whole family knew that they were being a parasite feeding off of them, but they knew they were a help to them.
The other family, I don't know. I don't think they did. I think the other family genuinely was in a space where they just wanted to get what they had, to the point where, again, they got so consumed that when the whole family left, everybody came in, was eating their food, was talking about how, this stuff could all be ours. And what if you marry into that? We'll really have it made. You know what I'm saying? To the
that
point
was messed up right there.
That part was messed up.
Yeah,
it was.
They went way too far. But I think the daughter really brought them back to reality, and I think she kind of had this moment where she realized, like, y'all, what are we talking about? Like, how is that supposed to work? Do you really think that's going to happen?
It's also interesting the way that they form the tables.
Yeah,
I forgot what it's called, but it was like the formation of some kind of war.
Oh yeah, the war formation, like it was like the wings of a crane. Mm-hmm. Yeah, wings of a crane. Yeah.
So it was almost like symbolically a battleground.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when our ghosts that we love to talk about finally went and stabbed the daughter in the chest, and the father had to sit there and he's looking for the owner to help him. Like, hey, I work for you. Help. You know what I mean?
Right.
Help me. And he didn't care about nothing but his family and the fact that these folks stank. So
right.
They all smell. Get away from me. And
I need the keys to my BM.
yeah,
Right, give me the keys, what you doing. Because at that point though, and it's so interesting because they're really not to blame. Because at that point, everybody is individualistic, right? Although again, he had that moment where he's trying to get the keys and he's had to smell thing. But at the moment, they don't know the correlation between the family. So to see the driver going to go help the maid, they're almost like, what do you care? Like, I need you to come and do your job for me. What do you care about them? Which again brings back to a whole nother socioeconomic issue. Like when you see other people trying to help one another, what's that perspective? Like, do you think that they should be helping one another? Right? If I'm poor and you poor, can we not help each other up? Because now I got to go and help serve this master.
Yeah, and you would think when your employer sees you in peril that they'll want to help and help out.
But how close they were. Like these people are walking very close with you.
Yeah, they're in your home. They're taking you everywhere you need to go. You know, but when boo boo hits the fan, you like, I'm gonna grab mine. I'm gonna run. You know, like I'm gonna head out.
Tragic. That was terrible. And I think the thing about it that was so crazy is like the father, he wanted respect.
That's all he wanted. That's all he wanted. That's all he wanted. He
wanted respect.
That's all he wanted. Yep. And it was that simple fact of ego that made him go, have that blackout moment and stab him, because he's like, I don't understand. You're this man who looks at us like we stink. You have this crazy man living in your basement that comes up and still, for whatever reason, still looking to respect you. And you still look at him like he's nothing. Now, how much more do you think of me now, right? My wife is dying. You don't know she's my wife, but my wife is dying, and all you think is looking at us as if we stink. No, you're sorry. His daughter was dying. No, first of all, let me get to wifey, because wifey was a G. You know
and that's just another thing. So this is another thing that bothered me. That's because I pointed out. I said,
thug life.
Yes, my daughter just got stabbed, but my wife is fighting to stab her. And I'm going to sit here and be my daughter.
Yes.
That bothered me. I'm like, why is she doing what you should be doing?
But that shows you, that goes back to our conversation before about how the guy in the basement couldn't help his wife. Like, none of these men could lead.
Nope.
Yeah.
None of them could lead.
Nope.
Which is like the craziest thing to me, because it's like, you want respect and you can't even get your house in order. How do you want to get respect and you can't get your house in order?
Yeah, that was good. And then to go, the fact that
what up, Larry? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Hey. And then the fact that
he alpha too. Just saying.
Okay, there we go.
I had to link him up, man.
That's okay. yeah, do that. And then the unique part to me, right? And I know we only have 12 minutes left on our line, so we're gonna kind of keep pushing it a little bit forward. I think we only have an hour on these things.
Yeah, we only got a couple percent left on the phone.
So pushing forward, when all of this craziness happened, right? The son and mom, they go to court. They ended up just getting probation. But just kind of the symbolism of the son, and how he said all he could do at the end was just laugh, right? After all of this has happened, this brain trauma, they said, oh, well, sometimes people do that after intense brain surgery, but now all he can do is laugh. When he goes and sees his sister, he laughs. When he goes and thinks about what happened, he laughs. Like, how is it that someone can go through so much and at the end of it can just laugh? Like, what was the joke in all of that they just went through? He lost a sister, he laughed. He don't have no idea where his dad is, he laughs. And I think that there was such a strong kind of tie-in to the climax of everything is metaphorical, right? He goes through all of this, and at the end of it, none of it was really real, right? Mm-hmm. And it caused such a space of chaos that he doesn't know whether to laugh or whether to cry. He just knows that whatever it was just wasn't real. And all those decisions that they made led to this life, to where it almost to the point where I don't know what's real and what's not real, right? Like, is this real? Like, how now am I supposed to proceed when I led all this time as someone else, and now I've been knocked back down to the bottom.
Yeah, you're
right
worse than
where
you're worse than where you were.
Yeah, worse than where I started. Like now,
for the record.
And then the thing that's so sad is that when he goes through this little montage of, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to do this, I'm going to buy this house, I got my mom, and my dad's going to be able to walk up the stairs. Like he's going to make his family so proud.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if he can now. You know what I mean? Like if he would have did that in the very beginning,
perhaps right.
You know, it would have been. But you know, hindsight's 20/20. No matter what, but it was just so tragic because he has brain trauma. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Another family bought that house.
Mm-hmm.
Another family's on top, and your dad is a parasite.
And he took the place of the ghost in their house.
Man,
right.
The ghost. Oh, the ghost.
He took the place. So it's like, the way I see it, it's kind of cyclical with the fathers. Like there's three of them, right? It's very cyclical. You have the ghost, who's trying to give respect to the rich man, Mr. Park.
Yeah.
Trying to give respect. And then you have the driver who's trying to get respect from Mr. Park. But ultimately, I'll say this, the driver was kind of responsible for the death of Ghost. And therefore, the driver had to take the place of the ghost in a way.
Yeah, because he let the ghost go. It's almost like somebody had to occupy the space. Like it cannot go unoccupied. Yeah.
Exactly.
But is that not the way that it is in this world?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Is that not what it? You know,
yes.
I just look at like when we talk about, you know, people in poverty and what's going on. Like, is it not cyclical? Like it's generational curses. To break that, it takes a lot.
Yeah.
You can't walk up the stairs. Like
right.
that ain't real.
No.
And I just think that it really speaks to the fact that it's cyclical. Like this thing is happening. Someone has to be the ghost. Because if someone's not the ghost, someone's not on top.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true. And then even just the process, right? He tried to get to the top by any means necessary, and those means not being conventional. Now all of a sudden you've been knocked back lower than where you started. And so does it really prevail to go about it the wrong way versus to start, like you said, from the beginning, to work your way there, to now be there, and then bring everybody with you, and versus all of a sudden being knocked back down lower than where you started?
But the family had the talent to do so.
And they
did.
They had the knowledge, they had the wisdom, they just weren't ingenuitous in their own right whatsoever.
And I thought it was ironic when they pretended to be this business called Care, but they provided all these different services. That's what I look for, mind blowing blank. But they were already doing that.
Yep.
So they had something they could have actually used. You know, they had it.
They did. They had all this.
But they'd rather falsify it than do it.
It's too much work.
It's too much work.
But is that not the way that's how it works now?
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it, I guess.
How many communities do we know that like people have immense amounts of talent? I mean, you have talent everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's tough. They don't want to do it. But is it because they don't know how? Or because they, you know what I mean? Like, it takes a little bit more than that. You know, we want to tell people, start a business, do something new.
Yeah.
But that requires work, and I don't think everybody got the wherewithal.
Everybody's not willing. Yeah.
See you later, Plowright Fitness.
So we have...
Hey, Andrea!
Oh, there we go. That's y'all friends. So we have now approximately about 6 minutes left. So let's get into the rating, right? So typically when we have our ratings, which could probably be edited, I don't know. Nobody's been to a theater in forever, but 4 ratings. But typically we have 5 ratings, just like most people do, kind of on a 5-star scale. But typically we mirror it to like when you should go and see it. Where double feature is like our very, very top rating, where it's so good you should go see it twice, or our lowest rating being it can wait. Rather mean you can wait to go see it, if at all, in the theaters. And so if you were to give this a rating from you all's perspective, what would you rate this movie? And if you just say 4 stars, I'll just tell you what 4 stars is.
I personally don't think it's double feature worthy. I think this is a film that needs to be digested and discussed. That's the only way so seeing it twice won't help you. Like, you understand you happen. But seeing it once and then going to a coffee shop with, you know, a cousin couple that can actually discuss and
Treadwell's in the building.
that can actually discuss and have these conversations. And so for me, I'm assuming that would make it a 4-star in your scale.
Yeah, so 4 stars must see.
It's a must see.
Yeah,
I think
must see.
I'm going to agree that it's a must see. Now, I do think that my opinion is tainted, and I can say that completely. It's because when I compare this film to a Us or Joker, it ain't there yet. You know what I mean? Like, it is like it's almost there. Don't get me wrong. It's, but
If it had been in English, maybe.
Or if I had a better ending.
Subtitles or something.
Better ending. I would
so
give it
4 star. It's one of those things. You're gonna have to watch it twice. I just don't advise watching it back to back.
Yeah.
Don't watch it back twice. But you're gonna notice things probably the second time around you didn't see.
Yeah.
The first time.
Okay, so I have a challenge question. Which do you think was better, Loose or Parasite?
Ooh.
They were along the same lines.
I was just about to say they're the same movie.
I honestly, that's tough. I gotta eeny, meeny, miny, moe it because it's like they were the same.
They spoke English and Loose.
They were the same,
no.
But
it was murky. Who was the bad guy? It was unclear. Everyone had done something that was a little bit shady.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't think one is better than the other. I think they both tackle two different type of issues.
Right. The other one, Luce, just had a little bit more racism.
Yeah.
Race as a issue.
Yeah.
Just had more social.
It was like a racism type thing, where the other was a classism type thing.
Yeah. Although classism was there too, but still. Yeah. You know.
Okay.
That's tough.
Well, thank you guys for allowing us to be on your using Black.
Thank y'all.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun. We have to make this a quarterly thing. I love this.
Please, we watch movies every day, all day.
Oh, speaking of, I did watch Hoodlum. Amazing.
I told you.
You did.
I told you. Have you seen Hoodlum?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's been a long time, but I've seen it.
That's what, man, I used to watch. That things come on every night on HBO.
Bless it.
Jeremy, you know he loves American Gangster, so
yes,
right up his alley.
You got to block that,
huh?
I said you got to block that. That's genuine alpaca.
Alpaca throw right here. I love my alpaca throw.
Yes. Well, good. Thank you guys for giving us our 2-minute warning. Thank you guys so much. And for those who may have tuned in and chimed in, even if you came and skipped in and skipped out, we appreciate you guys. Be sure to keep a lookout. We will try to upload this on YouTube sometime this week. So that way you can rewatch all the good conversation. And if you want to go and take a look at it, again, it's Parasite. It is available now on Amazon for rent. So be sure that if you have a spare moment and you just want something that's really good to really just kind of dissect with some of your friends, and if you can stand some subtitles, it's on there. But it's definitely, according to everyone here, it seems like it's a must-see. So be sure that you check it out.
So we definitely appreciate you guys. Anything you guys want to talk about or share or promote? We got the minute 14 seconds left.
Yeah.
I say watch more movies. And
I was talking about like y'all business or anything like that.
Nope, watch more movies. Let the experts know.
Yep.
Hey. All right.
Love you guys. Bye.
Love
All right,
you
see you
guys.
guys later.
Bye.